Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I thought I would talk about a topic very briefly because all the new fat acceptance memes are making their rounds on Facebook and the fitness community this week. And then the people talking about them and everything, and then the fat shaming starting. And something I really want to talk about here for a minute. There's a couple issues with this. I am opposed to both fat acceptance and I am opposed to fat shaming. The reason I oppose the fat acceptance movement is that it is pushing an agenda that is detrimental to our health. It is detrimental to our resources, and it overall sends a harmful message. And it's not the issue of the psychological impact, it is the message of the physical impact that it is okay to be obese. When we have record levels of type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cancer, all of these other issues that are massively affected by obesity and the lifestyle choices that contribute to you being obese, such as lack of regular, intense physical exercise, eating generally excessive amounts of processed food, all of these problems arise from this. And people who say, well, I can still be obese and be healthy. No, you can't. You might be that 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 people who have okay blood work, normal range blood work for a few years while being obese, but it will catch up to you. You do it for 10 years and then go get your blood work checked, and you're going to be surprised that you're no longer going to be healthy. You're very quickly going to oftentimes find yourself going from having healthy blood work to 5 or 6 years later being pre-diabetic, and in another 5 years needing insulin or metformin or other drugs to deal with your life-threatening health issues. So no, it isn't healthy. But by that same token, we also have the fat shaming side of it, and that's not helpful either. The obesity epidemic is really a combination of other factors. Obesity isn't caused purely by the lifestyle factors that we normally see here in the West in America, all the large amounts of saturated fat, all the amounts of processed foods, the amounts of refined sugar that people are eating, the amounts of refined oils that people are eating, all these things that contribute to low satiety, empty calories, combined with sedentary activity isn't the entire culprit. That will generally make someone overweight, but there's a difference between being obese and being overweight. Like when I'm bulking, for example, I've had people call me obese. That would be overweight if my body fat is going there. It's not considered obese. We have an actual obesity epidemic. And most people, if they don't have any other factors other than that lifestyle, like 50% of the American population is overweight as a result of it. Not obese, they're overweight. They need to lose 20 or 30 pounds. They could lose that in a relatively short period of time if they just adjusted their lifestyle. For those people, that isn't an issue. The actual obesity end is a sign of a bigger crisis. It's because we have that subculture already in existence of overweightness, and we have access to all of these shit foods and bad lifestyle choices that are now habitual and becoming multi-generational and being taught. It becomes an outlet for people's addictions. It's a mental health issue. It's people's coping mechanism. And now we might tell people that it is okay for them to be okay with who they are on the inside, but if you're obese, no, it's not okay. It's a sign of not only poor physical health, but it's now a sign of poor mental health, because generally people who are obese, it is a coping mechanism for other factors in their life. Simply helping them straighten out their diet without fixing those psychological issues that are addictions that result from generally some type of trauma or something that has happened in their life. And they oftentimes eat those foods for comfort foods, as a coping mechanism rather than going to drugs or alcohol. Now, we could argue all day long as to which is more destructive. We could probably say the drugs and alcohol are slightly more destructive, but you're still going to end up dead at a young age for it and suffer for it either way. So it's not necessarily better. But just helping them with diet and exercise isn't going to resolve the issues. Nutrition education isn't going to solve the issues of the people who are truly obese. It might help bring them down to overweight, but they're still going to be overweight. And they'll still drift back into obese. And case in point, and why people need to be understanding of this, I'll give you a perfect example. I have a personal friend of mine, I won't say her name. This is someone who I have previously helped with her nutrition. I have previously put her on a training regimen. As a friend of mine have done for free, I've given her a lot of nutrition advice over the years, and she has lost weight here and there. And at one time, she was down to just to where she was probably 15 pounds overweight. That's where she had gotten down to just with me giving her some pointers, but now she's ballooned back up, and last time I saw her, she's back up over about 200 pounds. And why does she have these issues? Well, she has a history of childhood abuse. Her father was very physically abusive. She didn't say it ever, but she hinted very, pretty much almost said that he was sexually abusive to her sister. Never said anything about herself, never pried further, but not an unreasonable assumption. She was later sexually assaulted as a young woman. And for her, food is her coping mechanism. Even though she does get some help, she is on antidepressants and things, her food is a coping mechanism. And she loves her delicious food, her pizza, her barbecue, her cakes, her desserts, and she eats a lot of them. And when she's going through stressful times, that is her fallback coping mechanism. It's an addiction to deal with her trauma. Another example of someone I've seen even online who is somewhat well known in the community, won't necessarily go into his details either. He had become morbidly obese and has lost over 200 pounds. In large part, it was his way of coping when his mother died at a young age. I think he was around 12 years old and he lost his mother. He developed a food addiction as his way to cope with that stress. These types of obesity are not caused just by bad lifestyle habits. They're caused by trauma in people's lives. And those people who are obese, truly obese, have other psychological issues, and just shaming them for being fat isn't necessarily going to help. They need to be made aware that the being fat is unhealthy. They need to do something about it, but resolving their mental health issues and dealing with these addictions and dealing with these coping mechanisms are a part of their weight loss process. If you don't fix those things or resolve those issues, you're not going to be able to help these people purely through diet and exercise. They need all of it. They need diet, they need exercise, and they need psychological help. Otherwise, they're going to continue to be obese. So that's why the fat shaming doesn't necessarily work. So we in the community need to take a stand of we need to be against the fat acceptance. But at the same time, we need to make people aware that this shouldn't be a fat shaming issue. That maybe the people who are just slightly overweight due to the lifestyle, yeah, that's purely ignorance or laziness on their part to not bother to break up bad habits and traditions they were caught. But the people who are actually obese, it is generally something a lot deeper going on in their lives. And it's food is a coping mechanism, and it generally will require some type of psychological help for them to overcome it. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time. But let me give you guys a bicep shot before I go. Oh, Mount Bicephus.